What up, YouTube Live? I'm back. This is yours truly, Rama Screen, covering movies, TV, and entertainment. And here's my review of tonight's True Detective Season 3, new episode 6, titled Hunters in the Dark. Now, just like with all my episode recap and TV reviews, this too contains spoilers. So, heads up, I will be spilling some spoilers, mostly because I will be recapping what happened in the previous episode and kind of describe to you a little bit of what happens in this new episode. So, this review is mostly for those of you, my fellow True Detective fans, who also have seen tonight's episode. Again, heads up, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Okay, ready? Oh, I'm so excited. I love this show. First of all, I want to give shout out to I want to get the name correctly here. I think I have a commenter on Rama Screen YouTube channel. He commented. He left a comment on my True Detective review from last week, and he pointed out something that I sorry. Let me just turn down the volume here. He pointed out to something that I kind of um was incorrect about, and that is um, Roland West, Stephen Dorff's character. Turns out he's not um, a Vietnam vet. We know that Wayne Hayes, Mahershala Ali's character, is a war vet from Vietnam War. But Roland is not. Adam Duncan, there you go. Adam Duncan. Want to give it a shout out. Give a shout out to Adam Duncan, who corrected me. So I admit I genuinely thought throughout this whole season that both Roland and Wayne were Vietnam war vets, but turns out only Wayne Hayes is the war vet, not Roland West. So thank you, Adam Duncan, for the correction. I appreciate your heads up. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, I'm excited now. I'm excited. I'm excited. Okay, why am I excited? Because by the end of tonight's episode, it's revealed again, spoiler alert. Okay, it's revealed that Harris James, the highway patrolman who now is chief security officer in that one company, he has something to do um with the disappearance of Julie. Um, I knew it. I even before the revelation by the end of this, because Tom Purcell enters the mansion and enters that pink room, and then we see Harris James in the back of him, you know, probably about to kind of hit him in the head or something. I don't know. Um, Even before that, I I had the sense, and you can kind of see it coming because the scene in which Roland and Wayne are interrogating Harris James in his office, his chief security office, is very awesome looking office. Um, you can tell from his demeanor, the way he answers Roland and Wayne's questions. You can tell that Harris acts in a way that it's like a guy who it's like this. The way I put it, the way I want to phrase it is like he's condescending without seemingly condescending. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, he knows something and he's hiding it from the detectives, of course. Um, but the way he answers it in the back of his head is like, aha, I know what's up and you don't know. And so I'm gonna pull this whole thing with the smart ass answers like, oh, why did the bag turn up like 2 days later? I don't know. God created the world in 6 days. This shit happens, man. And throughout the whole thing, Harris James smiles and smirks. You could tell it's like he would be the worst poker player ever, because that's a tell. Um, like he has an answer for every question that they have. Um, he's so confident and so condescending without, again, being apparently condescending. Like, yeah, well, you detectives don't know. You detectives will never find out. You'll never find out. I got this all thing locked down. Fine, ask any question you got. I got the answer for all your questions. So that's what I'm trying to get at. Um, it's a tell on his part. So when that scene at the end shows up, I'm like, of course, he's chief security officer, and um, according to the testimony, not testimony, I guess you could say the junkie, because remember, Tom Purcell. Well, in this episode, if you've seen it, Tom Purcell goes to this one. I forget his name. I'm trying to remember all the names of the characters. Sometimes I just. He's one of the uncles of Julie's. Well, he's a junkie, and Wayne and Roland meet him at the restaurant, and this is the 90s setting. Okay, this is the second timeline, not the first one. The first one is 80s, and the third one is 2015. Just a refresher here for you. So they meet him at the restaurant, and he tells them, "I'm not the only one looking for Julie. Tom is not the only one looking for Julie. There are people after this girl, or after this girl." And so what I'm kind of putting together with that clue or with that hint, and tying it with the end scene where Tom enters the pink room and Harry James, I guess that's his name, Harry James, the chief security officer, enters the room, and behind Tom. I'm guessing by people that know about Julie or looking for Julie. It sounds like a ring to me. It sounds either a trafficking ring or a pedo ring, or it seems like a case where powerful people, connected people, influential people have something to do with it, and either Harry James is also an active perpetrator, or he's the guy, the fix it guy. He's the cover up shit guy, right? Because chief security officer, um, maybe not only for the company but for these selected elite that have these, I don't know, secret society or whatnot, or some shit that they're trying to cover. Um, that's my theory right now. That's my theory based on just this episode. Um, and also because like in season one, we with Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson, we find out eventually that the murder mystery, or the end result, or it's bigger than just one person. It's like a community or a cult. So the way Nick Pizzolatto, he wants it to be more than just about something simplistic. He wants it more. He wants it to be more. He wants it as something that can be perceived as intricate and intriguing. So it's not just like, oh, it's got to be him. It's got to be that trash guy Woodard, right? That's it. It's not that simple. In Nick Pizzolatto's puzzle or mystery, um, it could be something more conspiratorial than just that. Um, so okay, the 80s, we left out last week with Roland gets injured, right, from the shootout. So in the 80s, that's where we are, and in the 90s, at the beginning of the episode, I'm sorry, and in the 90s, at the beginning of this episode, we left off at the interrogation room when Tom hears Julie's voice on the tape. Julie claims like she doesn't know Tom, like the guy who speaks on TV. Tell him to shut up. He's not my dad, and stop looking for me, which is so weird. So that gets Wayne and Roland and everybody, uh, that gets them to suspect that maybe Tom has something to do with the murder of his own son and the disappearance of his daughter. And I just want to say, I want to comment real quick that Scoot McNairy, the actor Scoot McNairy, who plays Tom Purcell, is remarkable in this interrogation room scene. That moment when he starts screaming, he looks down and you can see the nerve ending just showing all over his face. Hot damn, that is some award-worthy performance right there on Scoot McNairy's part. Whether or not the Emmys will remember him, that's another story. But I was blown away. I'm like, whoa, that shit. I mean, he really takes it to heart. Okay, he really takes it to heart. Um, and 2015, where we are in this episode, um, it shows Wayne Hayes, the old man Wayne Hayes, gray hair, talking to the interviewer again, the reporter, doing that whole TV show, like I don't know what is it, Unsolved Mysteries, or what shows, Forensic Files, right? Um, and I gotta say that the moments that old man Wayne Hayes shares with his son, grown man son Henry Hayes, played by the guy who plays Cyborg in Justice League, those moments, I don't want to be too mean about it, but I couldn't care less for those moments when they share when they share that cigarette and they're talking heart to heart. The only thing that I kept thinking is like, man, can we get back to the case, please? Can we get back to the case? And by the way, you would think that, okay, now that Julie is alive, Julie has that voice recording tape, and the major crimes in the 90s, right? The second timeline, are trying to get to the bottom of this. You would think that, okay, that's it. That means the story will just be about the 90s and the 2015 from this point forward. Because on top of that, because there are only 2 episodes left, right? Tonight is the third to the last. So there's only like next Sunday and the Oscar Sunday. Oscar Sunday is the season finale. So I'm like, okay, that's it. I guess the 80s part is over. But no. The 80s part in this episode is less about the clues and more about the politics. And I think that's brilliant on Nick's part, to point that out, because decades ago, right, when maybe fingerprint or DNA profiling database may not have been full or even created, or even re- they may not have been reliable back then, because everything was so simple and it takes longer to process things. So much so that back then the politics, the bureaucracy take over. Um, for example, in this episode, it's shown the people in power telling Hayes, like, "Hey, we find the backpack. We found the backpack. We found the jacket. Okay, now just pin this on Woodard, and that's it. Woodard killed these kids." And then at one point, he even says, like, "Well, yeah, we can't find the body, but we'll just assume that he incinerated her somehow." Like, dude, the lengths they would go to cover their own ass is unbelievable. But that's how politicians work. People who are they're scared that they might lose votes, that they're scared of they might lose their reputation. They're scared that if this murder remains unsolved or that it gets prolonged, that they would lose their job. So their priorities are not about uh the Purcell's best interests. And that actually happens a lot in real life, guys. um when people get wrongfully convicted or wrongfully accused just because the cops are under pressure to close the case already. They're so pressured by the powers that be, and so they just pin it on anybody, and so that somebody would like stay in jail for 27 years or something. We've heard those cases before, and luckily there's organizations that try to release those wrongfully convicted people. But that is very smart for Nick to point out that in the time when maybe DNA testing wasn't or did not exist, let alone it wasn't reliable. Sometimes that pressure existed, and so they and Woodard, the guy who committed that shootout, he was the perfect scapegoat. Like, because the dead can't defend themselves, right? The dead can't speak for themselves anymore and say, "Hey, I didn't do it." No, because he's dead. um, so it's less about the clues and more about the politics, but it's still intriguing and interesting to say the least. And it points out, just to it's an information for you guys that this kind of shit, they pull this kind of shit sometimes in real life, in the justice system, pinning it on somebody without sufficient evidence just so they could cover their ass. All right, but also I think the reason why the 80s keep getting digged up again or dug up, I guess that's the past tense, dug up again by Nick Pizzolatto, is because he wants you to know or to see, even when you know now we know that Harry James, the chief security officer, or Harris James, is it Harris James? I think it's Harris James, that he has something to do with Julie's disappearance. There might be some clues that we missed out on in the 80s. And I think that's a good thing to come back to the 80s, 1980, once in a while, even though the story now is moving forward, progressively forward to solving or unravel the entire thing, right? Because I think the show, at least in my theory, I think Nick wants to show the 80s, from time to time, even just for a few minutes. Um, so you can rewind it later. Like I rewind it a lot. I watch True Detective here, and sometimes I would rewind it to catch some things I miss out on. And I kid you not, I'm sure there will be some indication of Harris James or people linked to him um, during the day or the week of the disappearance in that 1980 setting. I don't know if it was revealed today in this episode, but I think in the subsequent episodes they'll be like, "See, you didn't see that, right? In the 80s, you missed out. See, that was a clue. That was a hint." It's like finding Waldo. That like. uh, let's see what else do I have on my note here before we move on. Oh, I want to comment real quick on the book, the signing or the reading of the book, because Amelia Hayes premiered her book, and with all authors, they would go to a bookstore and they would read excerpts from the book, from their book, and people would like line up afterwards to get their books signed. Um, and this one guy, this is the same black guy with the weird glass eye that Hayes and Roland West years earlier in 1980, they come to his RV, and he makes a scene, so then the neighborhood would come to defend him from the cops. And he makes a scene also in this one, basically calling Amelia a liar and that she doesn't know much. I'm paraphrasing, of course. Like he's saying, like, "Do you know for sure? Do you know where she's at?" And she kind of fumbles in her answers, and he's basically calling her out, like, "Shame on you for making money off of this." um I think you can make a genuine argument that he means well. Like he is one of those people who think that you should not profit off of somebody else's tragedy. Or you can genuinely make the argument that perhaps the man with the weird eye actually knows something too, that all these years he's been hiding or keeping to himself. And so that's why he gets pissed off at Amelia Hayes, because in his opinion, Amelia Hayes thinks she knows, but no, you don't know. I know, and you get this wrong. You're assuming shit, and putting it in writing, and you're making money off of it. But I know what's up. So that could be one theory as to why he is pissed off. Now, um, there's a scene in this movie episode where Wayne and Roland have an argument in the car. And it's funny the way, because it's so stereotypical, like prom queen, like pull over. I'm so angry, I can't sit in the same car with you right now. Um, so much so that even Roland West says, "It's like, what are you, a prom queen or diva? Like, you're walking out." And that's fantastic writing, because it's like the show is self aware that for that one moment, they are um, using stereotypical type of drama, like pull over. I'm so pissed off. I'm gonna walk home. Roland says, you're acting like a child, and that is a very childish behavior, but it does lead um Wayne to revisit the house again, and so he figures out that that hole in the wall is how they pretty much pass notes to each other. um so that's a mystery that still hasn't been unlocked yet. I hope in the last two episodes, next Sunday and Oscar Sunday, we'll find out more about why that is a crucial evidence or a crucial finding. um in the 2015, we see Roland West and Wayne Hayes again together, both old men, both gray hair. And at one point, Wayne is losing his mind a little bit. He re-enters the room from the bathroom, and he acts surprised at Roland. And you can see from Roland's expression, um, empathy or sympathy, because his friend, his longtime partner, is losing his memories, is starting to drift away, or starting not to remember even where he is, or starting to get paranoid, like, oh, there's a car outside. And you can tell from Roland, at least Stephen Dorms does a fantastic job of expressing this. Just such, it's like he seems heartbroken. This is not the friend that I used to know in the 1990 and 1980. Um, this Vietnam War vet who's sharp, who's a tracker, who's a hunter. Now this old man in front of me is losing his grip. Um, but I'm glad to see old man Wayne Hayes and old man Roland West at least trying to uncover again this mystery for one last time before they go off into the sunset, or before they die, or in the case of Wayne Hayes, before he drools. You know, um, I'm glad. I'm glad. It reminds me of this old series in the 1980s of Cagney and Lacey. Yeah, Cagney and Lacey, the two cops. Just, I think but they were middle aged, so they're not old ladies. So it's like, yeah, ganging up together like old days. Let's solve this thing. Let's read Amelia's books, see if Amelia has any clues. And to that end as well, I think it's a good thing that Amelia visits the runaway teen convent. Um, I guess what I'm trying to say is that True Detective, that title, does not apply only for those wearing the badge. Um, to a certain extent, Amelia has some contribution. You know, you can probably say, hey, she's just doing it for the book. That's why, Tom Purcell's wife is still pissed off at her. She feels like she's being taken advantage of. But be that as it may, it seems that the book, now that Wayne is reading it like really thoroughly, with that and with what the reporter or the interviewer knows, um, I think they're now starting to piece it all together. The thing is, though, Tom Purcell, by the end of this episode, Tom Purcell discovers the pink room. Harris James is behind him. That occurs in the second timeline, right? In the 1990, right after the Julie's voice recording thing in the interrogation room. So 2015, that's like, woo, 15 years apart, right? Um, if My question is, if old man Wayne Hayes and old man Roland West finally put the puzzles fit and learn about the truth about Harris James and where they could find Julie, my question is, by this time, 15 years later, will there be anything that, will there be anything left to find? You know, for all we know, the mansion may not be there anymore, right? The pink room may not exist anymore after 15 years. Some of the people might even die. Harris James might not even be around in 2015. So I guess I'm still curious to see how Nick Pizzolatto and David Milch, who collaborated with Nick on this season, how they tie this all up in a bow, um, in a way that's conclusive, but also satisfying. Because if it ends up like they figured it out, but there's nothing left to figure out anymore because all the evidence are gone after 15 years, then what's the point? And what's the point? Um, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope Nick Pizzolatto comes up with something that's more rewarding than that. So that's my hope. I'm just right now. I'm just excited that we figured out this Harris James, this former patrolman, highway patrolman, who is now a chief security officer, that he has something to do with Julie. Now we at least know which direction to look towards, right? Um, Now, at the very least, we get a clearer sense of who the bad guy is, because he may be part of a bigger conspiratorial, um, like the junkie says, people. He might be just the right hand man, the fix it guy. But now we know where to look. All right, we now know who to point finger at. At least there's one person representing that, and that's Harris James. All right, it's great, man. It's great. I love it. I love it. It's all coming together nicely, just like Hannibal from the A-Team series. I love it when a plan comes together. uh, this is such a great show. If you haven't watched True Detective season 3, I highly recommend you go check it out. Maybe you were disappointed by season 2 back in 2015. I totally understand, but please give this season 3 a shot. And it just it appeals to those of us fans of mystery and detective and investigations who may not be too easily impressed by procedural investigation shows out there that solves a case within 1 hour in every episode. Um, this appeals to those of us who like really love um, trying to solve each and every mystery of the bigger arc, the bigger picture. Because we know that in real life, again, as I mentioned 1,000 times, this is how real detectives work. Sometimes leads get cold, right? And sometimes it takes years. Sometimes they would have to reopen the case. Sometimes the leads won't show up until years later when, I don't know, DNA testing gets more advanced or some other new technique or method of investigation or a new database comes up, and it's like, oh my god, we forgot, or we did not see this piece of evidence 20 years ago, or like we missed out on that, we overlooked that. That's how real detectives work. And this show appeals to those of us fans of um such strategy of solving a mystery or a case, uh, that really is meticulous and careful and detailed, and sometimes takes its sweet time. Um, all right, so that's my long rant, my review of tonight's True Detective season 3, episode 6, titled "Hunters in the Dark." There are 2 episodes left, next Sunday, and then the Oscar Sunday, which is the season finale of season 3. I cannot wait. This has been awesome so far. If you have seen tonight's episode, and if you agree or disagree with me with my assessment in this review, please let me know. Share your thoughts in the comment section below. I'm curious to hear your thoughts about tonight's episode. Um, and as always, subscribe to my channel, press that like button, ring that bell. And if you can help support this channel, please do so at patreon.com/ramascreen. That's patreon.com/ramascreen. As always, let's rock this.